Hi, my name is Robert Marillo. I'm the broker owner of Aroa Real Estate, and this is the story of how I went from homeless to homeowner in less than 18 months and how we plan on going from statewide to nationwide in less than 5 years. So earlier on, when I experienced doubling my business from 2019 to 2020 and then doing it again from 2020 to 2021, I started attracting all of the things. Basically, it felt like that was it. I could not fail, is what it felt like. I thought once in real estate, being in real estate, once you're successful, like the success just continues on and on and on. I didn't think it can break. So I want to say in 2021, I decided to open up a whole bunch of businesses. I thought I was doing the right thing then. And then I started to grow a team in a similar fashion to how I tried previously in 2018. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And then little by little, I started to notice that there were certain turning points and then I guess decisions that I made that kind of created a downward spiral. So a couple of decisions that I made that I thought was right at the time was getting started with the team and bringing on a handful of VAs when I wasn't generating enough revenue to support that decision. And what really happened is it really led to a lot of uncontrolled growth that spread me a little too thin and led to things just falling apart for me. So I want to say everything up to that moment felt like failure. And then when I was in the moment, it was just constant survival mode. I felt like I was just having to figure things out day by day, having to prepare the night before for the next day, and I couldn't miss any of my calculated moves. Everything that I had in my mind had to happen exactly how I had thought, or the plan was going to fall apart entirely. The events that took place that led to becoming homeless, I want to say maybe a year and a half before it happened was when I started experiencing the downward spiral, right? So trying to bring on agents too soon and thinking that they were gonna add or increase to the production that I had going on the year before that. It had a huge impact on my personal production. It had an impact on my income and revenue, and I was just pouring out and it wasn't coming in. It wasn't coming back fast enough, or I wasn't getting what I thought was going to come out of building a team, right? When I went into 2023, basically going backwards, right? So I doubled my business from 2019 to 2020, doubled up again from 2020 to 2021. And then in 2022, I went backwards. So I backslid on my production and on my income. And then in 2023, I actually ended up having the worst year of my career in unit count in production. And I want to say that's when, I had to make a decision whether it was going to be sink or swim. And I had to choose between catching up on bills and having a place over my head, or investing and just betting on myself over again, even if it meant me not necessarily having a place to stay. From the outside looking in, before things shifted and I kind of went on a downward spiral, it looked like things were going great. It looked like it was an ongoing success, and the assumption was that I was extremely successful and it just wasn't going to stop. That's what kind of led to homelessness, is not being able to sustain on the monthly responsibility and just deciding to cut everything down to nothing. So I no longer had to worry about rent. I was showering in the gym and community pools, couch surfing at a couple of friends' house, and people who were helping me out, friend and family members who were helping me out. Little things, little occurrences happened where I had certain opportunities. For instance, a couple of moving jobs and kind of like random odd jobs and or opportunities to earn some income that allowed me to sustain in between closings until I was able to get back on my feet. Okay, so I was homeless and I was gearing up to hosting a Homebuyer seminar at the tail end of 2023, I want to say. And we started this campaign, I called it the 24 Families in 2024. And I remember having little to no resources, but I had gained access to the Melrose Center in downtown Orlando. And I was leveraging that as a hub to host events, to record content and marketing material. And when I decided to do that seminar, you know, I was wondering, one, if anybody was going to show up, and then two, how I was going to pull it off with all the challenges I was facing, even though it didn't lead to any immediate sales. But when we did the event and people showed up and I got the cooperation and collaboration with my colleagues, it really helped me believe in what I was doing and gave me that feeling of, okay, this, you know, if as long as I keep my head in the game, I really think sticking to this is gonna really work out. What really kept me moving forward when things felt the darkest was just drawing nearer and closer to God. It became, you know, growing in faith and just getting a deeper understanding of believing in yourself. I realized that my income and responsibilities were no longer aligned when it started to feel like I was pushing people to do everything that they needed to do, basically trying to get them to want to do it. But ultimately, I should have been just doing it myself, for myself, and delegating differently. My responsibility starting to feel like I was an assistant to the people who I should have been having assist me, without the need to have to push them to want it for themselves. So the primary sacrifice that I had to make as a father during my time of homelessness was not being present and active on a day-to-day basis in my daughter's lives, and not being able to take care of that responsibility. And it was tragic emotionally, and I had to bite the bullet as far as all the noise that came from making that sacrifice and that decision, and ultimately just had to battle through until I was finally able to pivot and reposition myself. As far as who was concerned, a lot of people who were working closely with me and were encouraging me, collaborating with me, and not necessarily judging me for what I was going through, really helped, as well as the overall bigger picture, keeping that in mind, and the desire to push through is the what really helped me. But ultimately it became the process of drawing nearer to God and growing in faith that really got me through to the end. The single moment, if there was a single moment where I realized I was actually rebuilding and not just surviving, was when things shifted from not knowing whether or not this was going to work to actually having a pipeline to manage, dealing with multiple families, and actually seeing the revenue start coming back in again and actually closing deals. Once I started gaining momentum again is when I finally started realizing, like, okay, this is really starting to take shape. And when I ultimately had to come to the decision to finally register Aroa Real Estate as a company, that's when I started realizing that it was the building blocks, the foundation was being laid for what is to come, to become history. Preparing my finances, my credit, and the process of becoming disciplined, all in all, you have to become ready. You have to become the person who's ready to do everything that's necessary to purchase a home. And if you don't already have certain disciplines in place financially, then it becomes much more of a process. So I personally started with seeing that home vacant, recently remodeled, staged, and just wanting it so badly that I started with what I knew I had to do, which at first was my taxes. Then, as I was going through some unresolved issues with my taxes from previous years, as well as filing the 2 most recent years, I also had to sift through my credit, take care of some old accounts, some negative impacting accounts, as well as taking a sudden turn for the worse, where like a few weeks before expecting to close, my credit actually took a nosedive of over 70 points. And I had to, get over the emotions that came from, seeing my credit score, seeing that happen to my credit score when I'm supposed to be answering to the listing agent as far as our loan approval was concerned, and then doing whatever what was necessary to fix it for it to be ready in time to close. So ultimately we ended up facing two extensions between loan approval and closing, but the discipline and most definitely the faith is what increased throughout that entire process. What that experience taught me in terms of humility, leadership, and discipline is that you're never too good to hit rock bottom. Not that I hadn't hit rock bottom before, but this was a totally different, humbling experience. And in terms of leadership, it's just understanding who I am internally and understanding who I am and the ability I have to impact others positively externally. It really drew me closer to God and reinforced my purpose and my passion for what I do and why I do it. Emotionally, it now allows me to empathize with people who I'm guiding through the process. But personally, it meant so much, not only because I experienced missing out on the opportunity not once but twice due to not being ready, but now I'm in a position to serve clients better, provide for my family, and in terms of having a place that's safe, having a roof over our heads, and a home base to work out of as well. So it brought in a whole lot more meaning behind being a broker who is leading agents, helping buyers and sellers either find a home or sell their home with the appropriate terms. And then now, when it comes to terms of building wealth, I have the story to share with people who are just getting their foot in the door, and then have the story to show and share the grit about what I went through and how I grew to have the passion for what I'm able to offer in terms of value to investors and people who are looking to build wealth in the long term. So I would say I'm the kind of leader who has grown to become fearless as well as insightful. Very insightful in terms of identifying where others are at and filling in the void of what they may be missing to connect the dots for them to see where they need to be at or what they need to learn and pick up on in order to move towards their next best steps. This whole experience has molded the way that I lead agents and build a team of support around me, in a sense that I've kind of lost any sense of fear. I believe my courage has been built up enough to where when I share a story or part of my story with others and give them that assurance that, hey, I can only share this with you because I went through it myself, or I'm not going to ask anything of you that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. I think that gives a little bit of an edge as far as relaying energy that's going to be positive, that's going to be encouraging, and that's going to feel like I can lead. I'm a qualified leader in our space. I believe real estate, when done right, can be a powerful investing vehicle because it's just a proven concept over time. Most people gain through a real estate transaction, whether it's buying a starter home and then later selling it for a lot more than they bought it for, or going through and using real estate as an investment vehicle for cash flow and then leveraging that cash flow for the acquisition of other assets. It's just a proven concept. When you do it right, time after time, and you have the ability to let time pass, then you're going to see the appreciation and the gains from making that investment and not being scared to play the game. Because ultimately, you know, just like the game of Monopoly, that's why my channel on YouTube is called Monopoly Moves, is because the ones who win the game are the ones who own rather than rent or try to make, you know, skate throughout the board without owning anything. If I was to look back and change any part of the journey, the only change I would make is I would have purchased a home myself back in 2021, just before the downward spiral began. And that's about the only change that I would make personally. However, I would not take back everything that I experienced, all of the emotions that I went through, all of the emotions that I experienced and felt. I feel like I had to feel everything that I felt. I feel like I had to reinforce because of what I went through, and again, gaining the courage and the faith that I gained. Those are things that I wouldn't trade for the world. The lesson that I can share with agents that want to grow but are scared to make the wrong moves. Well, the first lesson is don't be afraid. When you're afraid, it leads to you not making any moves at all, or just feeling like it doesn't matter what move you make, it's the wrong move. So you want to remove the fear or any aspect of fear away from the equation. And then number two is you're never going to know whether or not you made the right move until you make enough moves to start getting results, right? So at first, you can get a lot of noise, people in your ear expressing doubt, fear, anxiety, or lack of confidence. And really, you're only going to gain that confidence that you need in whatever decisions you make after you've gone through either trial and error, or you've identified someone who's leading you to make certain moves, whether you believe it's the right one or not, and then seeing what happens after that. Well, first and foremost, investors should be looking for proof of concept, understanding where they're at in the cycle themselves. Are they just getting started? Are they experienced in what they are proposing or presenting, and whether or not they're looking for a long-term relationship with them? Someone who is, looking for a quick buck or a fly-by-night opportunity, or something that has not been proven over a long periods of time historically, then they may want to reconsider, unless that group, company or individual has enough references or proof of concept to gain the confidence of those investors to make a decision. My personal journey allows me to guide clients differently, in the sense that I'm a lot more empathetic in knowing exactly what they may experience throughout the process, right? It's no longer anything about me selling you something that may or may not be the right fit for you and your family. It's more so, hey, I'm going to educate you first, get an understanding of what your needs and wants are, and then guide you the best way I know how, and or connect you with the right people to make sure we can help you accomplish your goals. So that's number one. Number two, basically my personal journey has only reinforced my passion for helping families and help you understand the confidence that you should have when buying into real estate and knowing that you're pretty much going to see some appreciation and experience a positive outcome from the journey. So full disclaimer, if someone is deciding between betting on themselves or taking a chance, I would say don't try this at home, as a full disclaimer. But if you are caught between, making a bet on yourself or playing it safe, I would say flip a coin, and whichever one you feel is the right thing, regardless of what that flip lands on, that's the way you should lean. I ultimately had a feeling. It was like a feeling in the pit of my stomach that just wouldn't allow me to feel right if I did anything other than the decisions that I made. So that was for me. I don't know that everybody can stomach all of the emotions and feelings that I went through. So it's just a matter of where you're at in life and what regrets you're willing or not willing to live with. 2026, in this season, I'm in a totally different space. I'm feeling a lot more purposeful these days. And in comparison to that season, I think in that season, I was just more in survival mode, and it was a sink or swim situation. Now I'm a lot more purpose driven and just in a space where I'm just constantly seeking ways to add value to our clients, to our vendors and partners, to our agents, and also transitioning into creating wealth and building wealth with investors and long-term players. On a final note, I would like to thank everybody who was there throughout the journey. I would like to thank the audience, people who have joined us on social media along the way, and everybody who trusted me and my team with serving them in the process of purchasing their homes or selling their homes, as well as the investors who we are now building wealth with. For anyone who's looking to work with us, you can find us online at yourhomeneardisney.com, and you can reach us at 321-999-8689. And we are helping our people elevate through real estate every day.